I was just feeling so frustrated and so lost and really like a level of failure because I'm going to get another counselling session here. Now, what ended up happening there was I managed to get to the first dry mess and get the menus out. But during getting over to the second, I just started to physically shake. And this level of pressure and it was just anxiety kicked in and I just had a panic attack.
Wow.
And I remember walking on the outside of this building and I literally just pulled myself into this doorway. And I was just physically shaking in the doorway and I just dropped to the floor and I'm like, what the hell's happening? Because I'd never experienced this. And there was no one else around. And I'm just crying and
What is up, everyone? I am Lachlan Samuel, and this is the Open Up Podcast, the show where real people open up and share real stories of struggle. What's up, guys? If you haven't heard, we've got a new fortnightly newsletter out. Now that is called 3 Source Friday. That is 3 free resources that we're going to provide you to help you master your mind. Now, that is going to consist of the book we've read in the past fortnight, what insights and what lessons we've gained from that book. So that's going to save you time. You're not going to have to read it. But if you are interested, then at least you have a good understanding of what it's going to contain and how it's going to relate to you and your life or your situations. The second one is going to be a piece of content that's impacted us the most. Now, it's going to either be a podcast episode, a video, an article, or a study that we've read so that you can consume over the next fortnight. And lastly, it is going to be an actionable tip that you can implement and test over the next fortnight to see if it has any benefit to you and to see whether or not that actionable tip improves the quality of your life. That is 3 Source Friday, 3 free resources that we're going to give you fortnightly on a Friday. If you're keen to be a part of that, if you want those resources, then please go to openuppodcast.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and you can chuck your contact info in there. Again, openuppodcast.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and chuck your info in there. Love you guys. Let's get back to the episode. Good to go?
all good, bro.
Welcome back to the Open Up Podcast, everyone, and to episode 36 with Martin Ball. How are you, my man? Thank you for being here.
Tremendous, brother. You?
I'm good, thank you. Quick question. I'll start off with, how would you describe yourself for anyone who hasn't heard of you yet?
How would I describe myself? That's a powerful question. I'd say someone who's full of life, happy, enjoying the journey, and a man who loves to preach about forgiveness.
That's something I really, really want to talk about because that's something that's super powerful and underutilized, I feel, especially in this time, especially when you're trying to forgive yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Super powerful and deep. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you provide a few different services. Can you give us a summary of what those actually are?
In all fields that I do, kind of thing.
In all fields.
Yeah. So really, my journey has led me on to what I do today. So the first thing I love to talk about is as being a personal trainer and a nutritional advisor along the journey. I came into understanding more around hydration. So I love to talk about water and the effects it has. And then with learning more about the brain, and especially when I went through mental health, I learned more around the effects of water on the brain. So naturally, I grew an educational company around hydration wellness. And then from there, I do a lot of talking around detoxifying your life as well. So getting rid of those things that we do on a daily basis that compound and create an imbalance within the body. And the easiest way to think about it, Lockie, is really from deodorants, perfumes, fragrances, stuff like this, makeup, especially for the females. And what we're using in our home for cleaning and stuff, especially the home is believed to be a more of a chemically environment than outside. And we live in it, and we sleep in it, and we have children in it. So it's becoming aware of that. So I started to look at how we can really implement better decisions. And it's all based on education. So I've got an educational company there that does that too. And with my journey and with the people that I've met and great people like yourself who have literally just pushed me and said, start speaking about your journey. And everyone knows I love to talk. It organically grew into me actually being asked to speak as a mental health advisor and stuff, and advocate. So this now for coming into 2019 is really where I'm going to step up and start sharing my journey more in depth. And I've already got a few people asking me to go and speak in high-profile events, which is fantastic.
Awesome, man. Well, the reason that I reached out to you in the first place is because I've got a few really close friends who really admire you and your message and have seen you speak in person, seen you speak live, and they thought that yours was one of the most powerful and touching stories they'd heard to date. Wow. So that's the reason I reached out in the first place. So I'm grateful that you've actually taken the time to do it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, and I'm super grateful you took the time to actually ask me, Lucky. It's been and this is the thing, with the people that we meet and the messages that we share, we get touched with other people, and this is it's certainly a very powerful experience for me right here, right now with you.
Yeah, I feel like when you align with your true self, what you're really meant to be doing, then you start engaging with people who are doing the same thing.
Yeah, the universe connects us for a reason, and just enjoy the journey. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to dive straight into childhood, and you said before we started recording that you never actually went through any sort of struggle or turmoil throughout childhood, but can you give us a breakdown, a summary of your childhood?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, so for me, going along there, all that I ever saw was my parents working multiple jobs. So my dad, I think he had 3 jobs, and we had a paper round as well. I remember my dad coming up to me and my brother and I when we were, I think we'd have probably been about 9 years of age, and he said, look, lads, I can't afford to pay for your karate anymore. You got a choice. You can either save the money up yourself and do karate, or you can come and help me with this paper round around our local town, which was 750 papers delivering. So, we did that for like £2, £3 each, because we were actually just had enough money to keep a roof over our heads kind of thing. My mum worked 2 jobs. So I don't really remember my dad being around much, and that's no disrespect for him. That's what he did to keep a roof over our head. But my mum obviously spent a lot more time with us and was at my sports games, stuff like that. One of the things that I did get from that childhood was grind. If you want something, you work for it and you just keep going and going. So I was very grateful for that. And my dad did multiple things outside of his actual work roles. So I was watching this guy continually grow and take action himself on what he was doing. So it just helped me think outside the box rather than, if this is what you're skilled to do, that's all you can ever do. I was always looking at other things to do, and very grateful for my parents and what I've learned. But yeah, it was a great childhood as far as I'm concerned, because I had nothing else to compare it to.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's an amazing skill to take on in childhood, to know you have to work for something.
Oh, definitely.
Shit, yeah. I didn't realise that until I was about 24. It would have saved me a lot of struggle.
Yeah, well, I think it's that is Gen Y stuff. They want everything yesterday.
Yep.
Like, no, you got to grind for it. You got to work for it. So, yeah, very grateful for that. Although what was interesting was I always knew, or I always had this feeling that they'd split up, and it was a massive fear of mine. And I don't know why I did. I just knew that they would. And I've always been very emotionally connected to stuff. So I don't know if it was that, my awareness around that. But yeah, it was a fear. And they ended up getting divorced later in life when I think I was 24. So it's certainly at an age where I could deal with it. And I actually saw the separation happening. And it was like, this will be the best thing for them to do, to separate. And they're the best of friends now. They've both remarried and they almost invited each other to the wedding. So they're great, yeah.
Okay. And you said you don't remember your father around very much. Was there still that love and that connection there, even though he wasn't around very often?
Yeah, he'd occasionally come to like my soccer games and stuff like that if he was available. And there was definitely still a lot of love and connection. There was no... I just knew that my dad was doing it for him. He was tired a lot because he was working, he start work at 4 o'clock in the morning and be still working at 6 p.m. at night, and on his second or third job. So, but he always put time in there, and was always a level of at the time a level of gratitude. However, I've expanded on gratitude now, and I know that he could have been a bit more grateful for more of the simple things in life. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So I wish we all could be as well.
Okay, so I think we're going to fast forward to the story that you're here to share today. Do you mind walking us through that?
Absolutely not, mate. I'll be honoured, yeah. So anyway, you want me to start? You just want me to go for it?
Well, wherever you're comfortable starting.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So one of my friends was telling me about potentially getting a job in the mines. And he said, look, you're a health coach. You're already preaching this. You're already doing it at Fitness Point. What about coming and working in the mines? So for me at that time in my life, I was like, this is going to be great, because I hadn't done it on a professional level. I'd only been doing it personally and helping other people. So he said, look, I'll get you a job. It's going to be one of the top sites. Don't worry about it. You're already skilled in the industry. There'll be no problem there. So yeah, right. It was a complete change of career from carpentry and building into that. And mate, I went up there with the biggest smile on my face, and I was finally doing what I love to do. And I can remember being on there and being around some of my work colleagues, and one of them said to me, he was only about 24, and I think I was 32, and he said to me, "What are you going to do after this?" And I was like, "What do you mean after this? This is it. This is as good as it gets."
Living the dream.
Mate, I'm truly living the dream. Like 2-1, I think it was 90k a year plus other things with room share and stuff. And I was like, this is gold, considering how hard I was working back in Perth.
Yeah.
To be up there and doing what I love, to pay to keep fit and entertain, it was like, this is heaven. So I absolutely loved my role on site. And what ended up happening was I had a few people on site who things weren't quite working out on site in the environment where we were, and a new manager had to step in.
Yeah.
And it needed to happen for the progression of the company, because there was quite a few people taking the mickey. I'm earning all these big bucks, but they weren't doing any work. And it was quite a good...
I think that happens everywhere, man. It's
does.
an Australian thing.
Well, obviously, with my background coming from grind, with my upbringing, and I had my own companies when I was before I went into the mines as well. So I knew about grind, get over stuff, get on with it, always finding the end result. Nothing will ever stop you. So when I went up there, it was kind of a shock, a massive culture shock for me, because I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here doing nothing but earning a lot of money. So what ended up happening was, anyway, this new manager came on, restructured everything, and it was fantastic. What he did was great. Really, an incredible leader is what he is. And I was very grateful to have the time to work with him, because he taught me so much as a leadership role. Now, really what we ended up doing was, during that time, he brought up one of his former work colleagues onto site as a trainer in the beginning, but then stepped up very quickly into assistant manager role. Okay. And in all fairness, Lockie, I just looked at it and went, they've worked together, they understand it, not a problem. However, this one guy, this guy who came up as the supervisor, was a huge ego. Very much the gym junkie, and that's not like, being disrespectful to anybody, but all about how big am I, how high can I get in the company, and that kind of thing. And it was an interesting shift of a person and energy in that environment, because that wasn't what we were. Okay. So, but anyway, everybody each to their own, and that's fine. And there was a couple of people, because I worked very closely with the contractor, I think they were called at the time up there, person who had us up anyway. I knew what the expectation was, and because I was a team leader, I knew the level of things that had to be done. So I'd often be saying to guys, we need to get this super clean. When we're cleaning the gym, we have to make sure everything's all good. And people were just up there, weren't bothered. And I was like, well, we're only going to get in trouble if we don't. And more important, the client, that's it. The client is going to really give us a kick up the backside. And none of us want that. So, but some people just weren't genuinely bothered, which frustrated me because of my background. Yep. Now, what ended up happening was that my manager at the time, unfortunately, his wife started to get quite sick with mental health. So he had to spend quite a bit of time off site, which meant the assistant manager stepped up, and one of the other lads was supervisor. And they were implementing things that just didn't have any value to what we were doing, but also from an angle of no structure behind them and no certainty behind them. They were just kind of ideas that they threw out there and said, right, we're going to do this now.
Yep.
But with no planning. And it's like, well, how are we going to do it? Don't know, just make it happen. And it was all to look good to the client and all this, but at the same time, if you can't actually lead the team ain't going to be able to function. So, and me being the way I was, and in all fairness, I was the one that was the guinea pig for it all.
Yeah.
And I kept getting put there and going, Martin, you're going to do this. And I'd sit there and I'd go through it and I go, okay, and I'm processing it because of my background. I used to build homes and apartments. I know how to get over challenges. I was like, I can think of 5 ways why this isn't going to work. And I'm not being negative here, but I can't find a way it's going to work. You know, whether it be you've got to get it done by in a certain time, or you're on your own and you need other help, or whatever it be. And like, no, you've got to do it. And unfortunately, I'm being the guinea pig. And if you don't know how to do it, you're not going to find a way to do it. You need the help of somebody, especially the person that said, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So I ended up kept getting put in a position where I was so-called failing. And then I get a counselling session. Well,
you get a counselling session?
Oh, yeah. Like, for instance, one day I had to run a spin session. And I started work at 5:30 a.m. Straight away went and did the stretching for one of the departments. Then went to the office, got my gear, went off and ran the spin class at the 6 a.m. spin class, whatever it was. Finished that, and then had to be back into the gym at a certain time. Now, there's no way that I could have got there, had a shower after, because then I had a 12-hour day. So then I had another like 10, 11 hours. I couldn't stay in my sweaty gear.
Yep.
Especially if you know what a spin class is like.
Of course.
Mate, no way, and I sweat. I'm involved. So I had to go and have a shower, grab my breakfast, because at that time in the morning when I arrived, I couldn't get breakfast. So we'd do what I had to do. And I got a counselling session because I wasn't back on site in my office at the right time. But I wasn't needed there. But because I wasn't done it in the certain time, counselling session. In the team, for instance, we had a lot of tasks to do, and I was and we delegated the tasks between the team. One of the tasks on one of the people that was making my life a bit of a bloody nightmare on site, she wasn't going to do it. So I was like, forget mine, I need to go and do hers is more important, because all I had to do was wipe a fan down in the toilet. Hers was more important. So I went and did hers for her, and the supervisor came in, and because I hadn't wiped the fan down in the time that we were supposed to have done it, I got a counselling session and was told that my performance wasn't up to scratch. And I'm just like, wow, what's going on here? Why all of a sudden is all this happening?
Had you like felt that sort of coming, since you're the manager that you felt was this really good leader, since he'd been away from site with his wife and this new guy had stepped up? Had you sort of felt this coming, like you were being pushed towards this sort of outcome, like having a counselling session?
In all fairness, I'd say no, Lockie, but what I would say is that I didn't personally feel it. However, my work colleagues were the ones who picked up on what was being said and the language that was being said, and they had said to me a few times, that's out of order. You need to address that. And once I was made aware of it, then I noticed it.
Do you think there's a reason why you weren't so aware of it? Is it because coming from the chippy background?
Exactly, 100%. I mean, if you think about it, obviously I'm English. Growing up on a building site, you know, the sign of affection to one of your best mates is destroy him. You know, sarcasm to the max.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can remember on building sites in the UK, which is different to Australia, but you literally, you know, like for instance, a housing company, let's say Dale Alcock, for instance, not plugging Dale Alcock, but you know, let's just say Dale Alcock buys 30 acres of land and then builds all the houses on it. Whereas here in Perth, especially, you buy the lot and choose the builder. So we'd be on a huge land and we'd just be hurling abuse at the brickies and the plasterers and all that, having a good laugh. And that was the environment I was in. So it was kind of like water off a duck's back. And all of a sudden I'm made aware of it. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm noticing things. And I'm getting, by the manager, the standing manager at the time, I'm getting shouted at about a tennis ball being on the court. when I didn't do the rounds of the equipment and stuff in the sports facilities. Yeah, I'm the one being shouted at, and because I'm the team leader, and somebody else whose name is there, who's one of the people who's been a pain in my backside, was supposed to do it, and she didn't do it, and that's when everything started. And one of the other supervisors, because of, as you know, rosters, it's got to be different multiple. One of the other supervisors came up to me and said, "I'm having a word. I'm now aware of it, and this is out of order." And I was like, "Look, don't worry about it. They're just going to try and break me down, and it's not going to happen." So
well, up until that point where you get that counselling session, he's now yelling at you. Did you feel valued? Because, I mean, you got this grind mentality. You were trying to do things and, like, tick this checklist, in a sense, sort of like what you do on a building site.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have proper structure so you can get the task done in the proper order, so it's done efficiently. Did you feel valued up until that point?
I felt valued when the original manager was there. Definitely so. From an angle of the stand-in, I don't know if the valued's the right word, but I think it was more frustration and uncertainty as to why are these people treating me like this. I mean, my role as an active life coach was to bring energy to the community, to the residents, get them doing fun things, get them active, get them engaging. And so I was always smiling, bubbly, energetic. As I mentioned earlier, I was doing something I loved. Everybody always said, I mean, and I don't say this from a place of ego or vanity, I had been nominated for one of the highest awards on the site. I was requested by the departments to do the stretches because I'd brought so much energy and fun to it. I had them doing different things. I was getting a lot of notification from the client and so on. And it wasn't because I was trying to be better than anyone else. It was just me being the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And what was then brought to my attention was that my how can I put it? My work ethic was valued by the client.
Yeah.
So therefore, management position. But I didn't want the management position because I wanted to be with the residents. I wanted to be in the fitness classes and in the gym and engaging. The manager sat in an office opposite the client on the computer all day, taking abuse.
Yep.
Why would I want that? That isn't me. So, and in all fairness as well, touching on this, because this is something that comes to my head. In all the years that I worked, I'd never needed a resume. It was only when I came to Australia, to get into Australia as a resident, did I need all my skills and so on to help me get in. And when I got the job on the site, none of my skills were actually needed for that role, but it was my experience that got me the role. As in how I used to train and what I used to do and where I'd taken my body to. And my personality and so on, and the feedback from other referrals and so on. That's what got me the role, because I was going to be a fitness trainer on a mining site when I was carpenter and builder. It doesn't even get across at all. The only actual cross is that I would be talking to carpenters and builders in the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got it on my experience through my own fitness and health journey and my education and knowledge. So I'd never. Where I'm going with this is that from a management point, I had no need to have a better resume than anybody else. I didn't need it for my resume because I didn't need a resume. That's how my attitude was to life. So, yeah.
And do you feel like this fill-in supervisor saw your work ethic and how outgoing you were as a threat?
Well, that's what actually I was told by my work colleagues. Okay. Three people in particular were very supportive. Two of them were bullied at the time that I was there, and the other one was one of the supervisors, who was the third person, and she was incredible. So I'm very, very strong, very, very strong in the mind, everywhere, and let people know when they were wrong. And she was great for me, but she was the one who said, "I'm dealing with this." But she went away and had quite a bit of time off work with holiday and getting married and stuff. Okay. So, unfortunately, with being made aware, then you notice everything. And that was the thing. I was really noticing a lot that was going on and conversations that were being said. And it got it very difficult. Put it this way, every day was a difficult day there, Lockie. Yeah, a difficult day.
Yeah, I can imagine, and especially when you're stuck on site, you've got nowhere to go except your room to think about it even more.
Yeah, and that's it. And I was doing room share, and I just didn't know what I could say, because like I said, I was well liked and well respected on the on site, and I didn't know if I could speak to the person I was staying with in case they were trying to send messages back or what was going on. It just got that intense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got very hard. To who can I talk to? Who can't I talk to? And is external management? Can I speak to them? Like even the health and safety officers. Can I speak to them because they're part of the company? And I don't know what was going on because I just didn't understand why people were treating me like this when all I wanted to do was be the best version of myself and in all fairness, help people like me.
Yeah.
If someone's got an issue with me, what have I done wrong? What is it? That was my mentality. Because I was like, why would anybody have an issue with somebody unless they've done something wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Done something to them.
And was it just the fill-in supervisor who was acting towards you this way?
Well, it was the assistant manager, the supervisor, and in particular one other person who was in my work team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it was more than one. Did it start with the one person, or was this a...
It started with the two, the assistant manager and the supervisor. They were the key. The third person who was in the workforce, she was just a pain in the bum, in general. Just not interested in being there and stuff. And
okay.
Not really skilled enough to be there, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but just not skilled enough. So, and that obviously, and I was given the thing of so-called managing her. And they put me. They put her in that. They said to me, "Oh, because you've got great leadership skills, so we'll put her in with you." And I'm like, "She's a pain in the backside. Doesn't listen to anything that I want that we recommend that we need to do, and in delegation." I said, "So why are you going to give it?" Well, because we think it'd be really good for you. It was just, and she didn't do the work, and then I got told off. So it was more reasons to make me look bad.
Okay.
In hindsight.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful thing, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine having to deal with one person not liking you and one person, I guess, putting you in positions where you do fail is hard enough, let alone three. How were you sort of dealing with that when you were made aware of it and then you're constantly becoming more and more aware of it?
Yeah, good question. Well, it was just super hard, mate, because what ended up happening was there started to be a separation in the team, shall we say?
Yeah.
Where there was like the cool group that got away with anything and everything, and then the group that were actually bothered about their job, who were actually making sure that they only finished bang on the right time, that they got the things done on the right time. They were kind of like pushed out. So it became very frustrating from that side, and there was nothing, in all fairness, Lockie, there was nothing that I could do. I realised this. I kind of got to a point where, do you know what? I'm actually fighting a losing battle here. So what I'm going to do is focus on what am I good at, and I'm going to do that really well, as in my role. So in the delegation and team, I'm going to say, I'm going to pick what I know I can do that's realistic, and I'm going to just get them done, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. Which was a big thing for me to let go of because I used to do everything. Yeah. And I used to, lead guys when I was on site and so on. So all of a sudden I had to just focus on myself. And that's what I ended up doing and doing well, no problems. However, they still put up barriers, and that's where the thing of being the guinea pig. How can we get him? Because he's doing everything right. Let's put him in situations where he's going to fail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you able to talk to anyone about what was going on at this point?
The only person that I was speaking to really was my ex-fiancée at the time. So fiancée at the time, I should say. She's now my ex. She'd just be like, "Look, Martin, let it out. Because I'd be on site really around about 4:30 in the morning. So the night shifters, because of my passion for really helping people, but also I wanted to train myself. So every morning I'd go and do my own spin session. and I'd invite the night shifters who couldn't get to the spin classes of the evening to come and do it for free.
That's awesome.
Like, mate, that's just what I love to do. Because I was like, look, guys, I'm going to do my own class. I'm going to do my own session. I'll train you. So I had all these guys coming in, and so my day started at 4:30, and I wasn't allowed my phone on site. So from 4:30 right the way through till 9 o'clock, I had no external communication. I wasn't allowed, obviously, my phone or anything like that. So what I did was, when I got back to my room, I had half an hour working on working on my online stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes chatting to my fiance at the time, and she'd just be like, Martin, just let it out, let it go, and I'd literally just be letting out all this frustration and hurt and anger to her, and then we'd have like 5-10 minutes just, how's your day been, to her. And I mean, she was great, she was super strong, and I mean, she was frustrated and angry that they were treating me this way, but she knew I had no one else to speak to.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, it got to the point, apart from the 3 people that I was close to, I didn't know who I could trust. Because of the connections that these guys had, and they were seen as the cool people and all this kind of stuff. So it was challenging from that side, Lockie. So a lot of it just stayed internally and built up and built up and built up. Obviously, till I got on the phone and blah.
That is a lot of time to hold everything in.
Yeah, breathing fire on the phone.
That's a toxic phone call.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
For your partner.
100%. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't realize. It was just I needed somebody. I needed the support, and at the end of the day, she was the one that put it out there and offered, and I knew it was a safe environment, and I offloaded. And I'm super grateful for her for allowing me to do that, because I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't have had it. So it was super powerful, and I mean it's hard, especially with the other supervisor who was on my side, kind of thing. If we go sides, she wasn't always there, as I mentioned, and she was away at times for big chunks. But the other 2, they were going through bullying by the same people.
Okay.
By the management. So I couldn't even speak to them, because it kind of like just be a big moaning session, which would send us into
just
a big
make you
vortex of what's the point? And it was a challenge, mate, going through it all.
Sounds like a pretty toxic environment for everyone then.
Yeah, definitely. Because
I mean, like, even though you guys are on the receiving end of all of that, even for the people who are putting it out, obviously they have some pretty bad insecurities to make people feel like that in the first place. So just the whole environment is toxic. And
Definitely.
For any sort of construction site in Australia, it's very much if you work hard, you're making me look bad.
Yeah.
Stop being a grub.
Absolutely. And this was the thing, because I think that, in all fairness, bearing in mind, my role was to empower people. I was loving what I was doing, so I didn't see or feel the negativity of sight as such, as in being in the FIFO industry. I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
I just felt joy. It was only because of these certain people that I felt pain, and like I said, I couldn't understand it, and that's why. Like, I know that the FIFO industry is known for its level of depression and so on, and the pain and being away from family and things like that, which obviously has a huge effect. However, for me, it was nothing to do with that. It was 100% just from people choosing to behave the way they are. And I mean, I talk now about bullying from the angle of the person that you said there, the person who's actually doing the bullying, the level of insecurity. There's pain in their life. They may have been bullied all of their life, and that's all that they know is how to act that way.
Yeah, and they've finally got this power, this bit of power in this management position. Now they're going to take it out on someone who they view, obviously someone who's so outgoing, that would have been the popular person at school.
Yeah. And in all fairness as well, I never was like that at school. That's the crazy thing.
Me neither.
Lucky, this guy was super quiet, super shy. However, I remember the 2 other people who were being bullied actually saying to me at the same time, Martin, slow down. You're making the rest of the team look bad. And I was like, what do you mean? And like, you're like up here and we're down here. We can't keep at that level that you are. So you're standing out, and it makes the rest of us look like we're not doing anything to the client. And I was like, well, I'm not. This is me. I can't stop being me. So they just said, well, look, just try not to do as much. So that was obviously then a challenge for me to be conscious of, am I making the people that I'm not intending on look bad? You know, and obviously for management, they believed that I was actually making them look bad as well, because they weren't at my level. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Cool. Before I jumped in, you were going through that story, so did you want to follow on from there?
Sorry, yes. So basically, what ended up happening was, one day I had this task where I had to go between two dry messes where you go and eat your food, and I had to get the menus done for both of them at a certain time. And the 3 gyms, the printers weren't working, and I had to then run around and try and get to the head office to go and get it printed in time. And I remember feeling this huge weight on my shoulders, like as I was walking, like I was just being pushed into the ground, because all that was going through my head is, I am not going to get it in time before the doors open to the dry mess for people to go and get the dinner, and I'm going to get another counselling session here.
That is such a stupid thing to worry about, eh? Like to have been put in that position, to be trying to do your job efficiently, and to actually worry about something like that is ridiculous.
Mate, it did. In the grand scheme of things, you know, wow.
But sorry, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's amplifying the exact feeling and thought in that moment. And you know, I was just feeling so frustrated and so lost, and really like a level of failure, because I'm going to get another counselling session here. Now, what ended up happening there was I managed to get to the first dry mess and get the menus out, but during getting over to the second, I just started to physically shake, and this level of pressure and it was just anxiety kicked in, and I just had a panic attack.
Wow.
And I remember walking on the outside of this building, and I literally just pulled myself into this doorway, and I was just physically shaking in the doorway, and I just dropped to the floor, and I'm like, what the hell's happening? Because I'd never experienced this, and there was no one else around, and I'm just I think I was crying at the time, like just a little bit of crying, not actually broke down, but just crying, and I just got myself together, and I got up, and I walked down, and I put the people had already gone in there, and I'm putting the paper in there and around the menus and stuff, and I just thought, oh well, what can I do? There's nothing I can do here. And we always used to have our dinner together at 4:30. We always used to go together. And I knew that which canteen they were going to be in, and I was like, I'm not going and sitting with any of them. I'm sitting on my own in this one, and that was the final one anyway, where I was putting the menus out, and I got my food, and I sat down, and I sat on the furthest table away on my own, and 2 health and safety officers came over, and the first thing they said was, "Are you okay?" And I just I didn't say anything. I just shook my head, and because I was about to break down. I was just keeping it together, but I was so lost and so frustrated. And they knew me from all the fitness and stuff, and know I'm like one of the high vibe guys. Just couldn't believe it. So they didn't know what to do, and I could feel the uncomfort between us, kind of like almost to the point where it's like, don't sit near me, just stay away. Anyway, I went back to the gym afterwards, and unfortunately I was working with the 2 other people that I knew that were going through the stuff, and we just supported each other, and I told them like how I'd been feeling and stuff, but I didn't tell them that I'd broken down or had the panic attack. Just said I'm feeling really stressed and pressured. Anyway, I actually wrote out what happened, what I'd been experiencing and so on, and I gave it to to the standing manager.
That is a really courageous move.
Yeah.
To take something as scary as that, something you've never experienced before and that you didn't yourself understand, to actually take the time to write that out as well as tell people how you felt.
Yeah, thank you. It was actually, I think in all fairness, Lachlan, one of the stand-in guys that came up, for relief. He always had a notepad on him, and I was chatting to him. He says, "Oh, Martin, I write everything down every day. I just let it out, whatever it will be, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whatever it is, I always write it." And he said, "Look, I'd encourage you to implement it." And I had spoken to him about a few things and said, "Look, I'm feeling a bit pressured here and stuff." And he's like, "Just write it out. It'll help you." And I think that's what actually, because I'd never done any writing before that since school. So it was kind of like, wow, okay. And I just let it out. It's something said, "You've got to do this." And I did it. So thank you for obviously the applause there.
Yeah. Were there any barriers for you to actually write that out and then pass it on?
I was conscious of how it would be taken by the standing supervisor. So I was standing manager, sorry. So I was aware. I don't believe I gave it all out.
Yeah.
But I said about what had been happening on site and what I've been noticing and how things could get better if we implemented this. And that's the way I was. I was always a solution mindset, always that stuff thinking. And that's why, in all fairness, the official manager had made me team leader. And I had got a good friendship with him, and he'd always said certain things, and he helped me grow into a better leader. So I passed that on, and whilst I went on R&R, the official manager came back on site. And when I came back to site, I said to him, "Oh, I really want to have a chat about the letter." And he was like, "What letter?" So he hadn't been given the letter. And I said,
"Wow,
I wrote a letter explaining everything that was going on and why I'd felt like it." And he's like, "I don't know anything about it, Martin. Will you send it me? And then I'll read it now and then come over in an hour and I'll have a chat with you." So I sent it him, and he actually got the standing manager and the supervisor there at the same time and said, "What's going on?" And they're like, and the standing manager said, "Well, we didn't know if it was a lie." So didn't even acknowledge it, didn't just let it go under. So I thought, giving it to management, obviously it was going to be dealt with.
Yeah.
No, it's literally thrown in the bin. So anyway, I had a good chat with the manager, and he said, "Martin, I'll deal with this. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine." At the same time, though, unfortunately, his wife was spiraling really bad with depression, so he was back off site again. And it just got to the point where things really started to get nasty then, because obviously the manager knew.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned what was going on, so they looked even worse. So then it was like, right, daggers are really out now. And I just thought, oh, here we go. This is going to be this is going to be interesting. And it just got worse and worse, mate, to the point where literally you're going to do this. And like I said, it goes back to, well, how do I do it? I can't do it. And I just got to the point where I was sick of getting counselling sessions. I think I had 3.
Really?
And I'm like, you're giving me a counselling session because I've not cleaned a fan. You're giving me a counselling session because there's a tennis ball on the tennis court. Really? Is this the level it's come to? And sorry.
So what would the counsellor say about?
No, the counselling sessions were with them.
Oh wow, with them.
With them. So it was literally a case of a review of what you hadn't done, what you should have done, and it's noted now that you're not actually, doing your job properly.
So was this their sort of way of like a written warning?
Yeah, it's kind of at that point. And I can't even remember if I got a written warning. I mean, in all fairness, Lockie, I was that detached mentally from whenever my role, nothing affected my role on site, but whenever they were around, forget it, I wasn't even there. And I can remember actually being in a pre-start meeting, and I was not even there. I was I don't know where I was, but I was somewhere else. And at the end of the meeting, during the meeting, the standing manager said, "Martin," and I obviously didn't respond just because I wasn't in the room. And then he's like, "Martin," and I like shook up, and he's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then came over to me at the end and was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "You know everything that's going on. I'm not talking about this." And I just walked off. And it just got to the point, Lockie, where it really, it just really started spiraling out. And what ended up happening was I was in the office and I was really frustrated this day. I just didn't know why it was. And there was a girl that was in my team that had been put in my team. And she didn't really communicate well with me. Seemed to be all right with the rest of the team, but didn't communicate well. And anyway, The other two that were friends with me that were going through the bullying, or one this day came rushing into my gym and like, Martin, is anybody else in here? And I'm like, no, it's empty. And they're like, close the door. And they're like, we're not going to believe what we've just heard. We walked into the manager's cabin, but we didn't go around the corner to the manager, but we overheard the conversation and them saying, yeah, we're finally going to be able to get rid of him. We've got enough reasons to get rid of him. We're going to put you in as the team leader to this girl.
Wow.
So I said, guys, you know what? I'm over it. I don't care anymore. I said, I'm just going to go and I'm going to write a report and send it into actual head office management. So anyway, this girl comes back into the team, and I just said, look, I'm going on my break, on lunch. So she's like, yeah, okay, no problem. And I went and put myself in a communal area right out of the way and just put my headphones in, and I just started writing, like let it out. And I remember it being 9 pages long, and I got back into the office and I got a phone call, and it was from the supervisor, because the assistant manager was on R&R at this point. So this supervisor was now this manager. So keep up. And I remember him ringing me and him saying, look, we've done a review. Your work hasn't been good enough. We're going to remove you from team leader. It's just the way it is. And at this point, Lockie, I just written the 9-page report. I wasn't interested. I was like, yeah, no problem. Thanks for telling me. Bye. And within 5 minutes, I just thought about it and said, that's not the way that you are. You always want to improve. You want to become better. So I rang him back and I said, look, fair enough. You're going to take it from me. I'm not bothered about that role, but I would like to know where I can improve, what I've been doing that hasn't been good enough, because I want to become better and I don't want to be staying where I am. So he was like, well, in all fairness, we actually made the decision a while ago that we were going to rotate people in as team leader so they got the experience. So I went, well, that's not what you just told me. You told me it was because my performance wasn't good enough. So which one is it? And he's like, I'll decide what goes on because I'm the manager. And I was like, so I just put the phone down and I was fuming, absolutely fuming, because I was like, that's a bloody lie right there. So anyway, I rang him back. I reckon I was like a volcano. I was about to explode. I rang him back and I said, I'm going to the medic. I'm stressed. I need to have a chat. And he's like, oh, well, chat with me on the phone now. Is it something at home? I was like, and I just said, you know exactly what this is about. I'm going to the medic. I'll meet you outside your office, because you have to go to the medic with them.
Okay.
And their office was on the way to the medic. So I got there and he was there, and then the temporary supervisor was there, and neither of them spoke to me. They just walked with me to the medic office. I went into the medic, the reception, said my name, and then came out and sat down. And the current manager, the supervisor, and the standing supervisor sat on 3 couches away. They're supposed to sit with you and support you. Sat 3 couches away, and some guy who I knew on site came and sat next to me, and he said to me, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Mate, I'm just sick of being here. I've had enough. I'm sick of the way I'm being treated and so on." He's like, "Don't let the bastards grind you down. Don't let them get to you." And
typical construction bit.
Yeah, it's like, just keep going. And I'm like, thanks. And he just stayed with me and we just chatted, which was good to have the chat anyway. I remember I went into the medic and I sat down and she just said to me, "So how can I help you, Martin?" And straight away, Lockie, bang, burst into tears, like physically shaking, burst into tears. She had the fright of her life, was just turned around to me, was like, whoa, calm down, get me some tissues and stuff. She's like, "I'm going to get you straight into the doctor," because you see the medic before the doctor.
Yeah.
And she just said to me, "Right, I've got you straight in. Here you go." She ushered me into the doctor, shut the door, and the doctor just said to me, "Tell me everything." So literally, I mean, I'd say it took me a good 5 minutes to calm myself down. I was really rattling internally. But I shared everything with him, the whole thing. And he just literally, his words to me were, nobody should have to go through that level of pain and treatment on a site or in any career. I'm immediately getting you a flight from site.
Wow.
And there was no more planes that evening, so I had to get the next day. So he gave me a sick note. He said, and this was 3 or 4 days, I think it was 3 days before I was actually due to finish my swing.
Okay.
I was doing my best to hold out for the end of my swing because the head office manager was coming to site. And I was like, that's when I'll have a chat with him. But obviously, I broke down. So I was given this sick note, which I gave to the supervisor who was acting as the manager, and basically went to the gym, packed my stuff, I packed my stuff. Nobody helped me. The supervisor was supposed to have helped me. Nobody helped me from my gym to where I get the bus, which was a good 10-minute walk. And I had a lot of gear because I had all my gear stored in the gym.
Yep.
And then and the one of the health and safety officers was there, and he's like, because he could see I was rattled, and he was the one that sat next to me in the dry mess a few weeks before, and he said to me, what's going on? And I'm like, your swing's not finished. Where you going? I'm like, told him what had happened, and he's like, far out. So the bus wasn't coming for a while, so he brought my stuff in, and he let me sit with him and chat with him, and then he helped me get on the bus, and then went back to the office and the room, and somebody else helped me carry my gear. But I was having no help from my department management, and anyway, packed my bags, and the next morning the supervisor acting as the manager came in and picked me up and took me to the airport and was like, no hard feelings, hope everything's all right and so on. And I was just like dry, like there's just nothing, man. I was like, yeah, no worries, shook his hand, and I was like, all the best, and that was it. I left. Now the head office manager didn't know about this. So I contacted him the next day and said, I won't be on site when you arrive, but I'd like to have a meeting with you. So he was like, what the hell's happened? So he spoke to them first.
Okay.
And got their input on it all. And then I had obviously my 9-page report. So I came in and he said to me, HR wanted my report because obviously I'd been removed 3 days before I left site.
Yeah.
So I sent it into HR. And anyway, I went and had a meeting with the new manager, head office manager, and he said, okay, Martin, look, this is the way it is. The site wasn't a good fit for you, but what I've got is the perfect site for you now. It's you will be on there as the main active life coach. It's 2 weeks on, 1 week off, the same as your roster now. The week that you're off, there'll be a stand-in, but they'll literally be following your handover notes and just doing what you say, but you're the one in charge because we know you're a leader. We know you'll do really well. And I'm like, oh, great. This sounds awesome. However, what we need to do is to fit this around. We need to take you off a permanent construction contract to casual so that we can fit it in, especially with the holidays you've got coming up. Now, I hadn't been employed since I did my apprenticeship at 16.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about contracts. So
to me, that just sounds like he's trying to swindle you, man.
Mate, well, do you know what? All I'm hearing is what I want to hear.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, fantastic. This is going to be great.
Someone's recognizing my value.
Yeah. Someone looking after me here. Well, I said, and he said, look, in all fairness, you don't need to write a report. I know HR have got it, but I don't need the headache. I don't believe you need any further stress. Let's just brush it under the carpet and let's move forward. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm not going to be, he says, you'll have no contact with them. They're not going to be coming onto your site or anything. Everything's going to be fine. Great. And he said, right, I'll get it all the paperwork, the contract written up, and we'll get it over to you. Well, that evening, I went over and had dinner with my fiance's mum and dad. And he said to me, what are you doing home? And I'm like, I had a breakdown on site. They've removed me off site. And he's like, you've had what? So he started chatting to me. I said, yeah, and this is the situation. He's like, do not sign that contract. And I'm like, because they were really pushing it, Lockie. And I'm it needs to be in before close of business, which I think was 5 o'clock or 5:30. And I didn't have time to do it, so I didn't get it done. Yeah, and he said, if you do that, Martin, they'll literally get rid of you because they don't have to find work for you as a casual. And I'm like, you what? Why are they treating me like this? What have I done? I've only ever given my best. Why am I being treated like this? So the next day, they're on the phone, first thing in the morning, contract signer said, I'm not signing the contract. And then that was it. They went quiet. Didn't hear anything from them. So I was asked to come in for a meeting with the head office manager, with the the manager, not the actual manager of the company, but a high up guy anyway, and who oversaw a lot of the stuff on site. However, at this point, Lockie, I was actually, you thought I had Parkinson's disease because I couldn't hold anything without physically shaking. I literally just
that is a major shift,
spiraling out of control. Yeah. So, her dad said to me, "Look, I'm going to come in with you. I'm going to speak for you on your behalf. I'll be here to support you." So,
because were they happy with that?
Oh yeah, they were happy for him coming in with me. But whilst we were in there, we were sat in reception, and there was a big image thing that had 10 of the like highest values or something. And as he's reading them, yeah, I'm hearing him going, "Huh, what a load of crap. Oh yeah, that's interesting." So, and what I didn't know as well at this point was my fiance's father had actually gone through a big journey of depression as well.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't know about this until he shared it afterwards with me. So we went into that meeting, and I literally looked at my, like my stomach, my legs, pretty much the whole meeting, because all they were looking at was my head, my dome, and he spoke on my behalf, and I had the water, I had to hold it with 2 hands to try and keep it from pouring out. That's how bad I was. And I remember him my fiance's dad talking to the management and saying, "Look at him, just have a moment and look at him. Did you employ him like this?" They were like, "No." Like, this has happened in your care or lack of care. Can you not see this? And he said, "You've got a thing out there that's got 10 of your values on it. I can go through 7 of them right now where you've not adhered to them to look after this guy." And they were just stunned because he's very clever. He's got that mindset. He just knew how to be there and hold space for me and deal with them. So anyway, during that time, during the meeting, this head office manager turned around and said that there was no report given in. The 9-page report given, there was no report. The things that he had said about me going on a casual contract weren't even true. There was no way that anything that had happened on site had happened, and I had made it all up. And he sat there, and I remember looking at him right in his eyes and saying, "That's not the truth," and him looking at me with a big grin on his face, as if to say, "I've got you here, mate. You're going nowhere." And I remember internally just dying and feeling so crushed and going, how can I even win this just for the truth to come out? So it was. I remember then my fiance's dad just said to me, "Don't worry, Martin. We're just going to go to. We're going to get a lawyer involved." And they turned around and said, "Yo, you don't need to go and do that." And they're like, "Yes, we do. You're going to have no communication with him. He's going to have 0 communication with you. Everything will be dealt with lawyers." So that's literally the road it went down. I went straight to a friend of mine who had gone through a lawyer with a work injury he had, and just told him everything. And he just said to me, "Martin, I've got to be honest here. A stress case is very, very hard. But based on what you've told me, it's a no-brainer. We've just got to fight the fight for you. And it's not going to be an easy process. They are going to battle like crazy. They're going to call you a liar. And because it's stress, it's not a broken leg.
Yeah.
They're going to just say it didn't happen."
And how were you with that decision? Did you agree with that initially because you were someone who liked grinding, who grew up in this grind mentality, and you just wanted to get better and improve? Had they beaten that out of you at that point, or were you still sort of hesitant to push forward with going with a lawyer because you wanted to provide value to that company?
Well, yeah, really, really powerful and great question, mate. That's a fantastic question. In all fairness, I just wanted to let go of it. I just didn't want to have to deal with them anymore.
Yeah.
And that was really the main thing was the advice from my fiance's dad, who said, "Let the lawyer deal with it. You won't have to deal with them," because I was getting very bad anxiety just hearing the company's name. So, I can remember driving on the road. So I have to pass the building when I come from my house towards the city.
Okay.
And I used to get panic attack. There's a car on the road that's named the same as the company. I'd get a panic attack. That's the depth it was going to. So I had such a a powerful connection to the pain associated with that company. And I obviously had gone to my doctor then. I was highly medicated. He was like, we need to get you on medication. At this time, I hadn't gone down the road of suicidal thoughts, but I was obviously not good, and my doctor could see how bad I was based on the shaking and all this stuff.
Yep. And how did you come to the decision that you actually needed to go and see a doctor at that point? Were you pushed towards that, or was that some conclusion that you come to yourself?
Medical certificate.
Wow. Okay.
To continue to be off work was really all it was. I mean, and this is also another big thing for me, Lockie, because for me, I was brought up to be holistic with my health.
Wow.
So if I got a back injury, I go to the physio.
Yeah.
I don't go to the doctor first. And I didn't know around all this stuff that obviously records are only kept from like an insurance point with the doctor. It's not about the physio. So once I was like my father-in-law to be said, go to the doctor, get the certificate. It's then noted on the file and so on. So I was then part of a system that I had to adhere to that was new to me as well.
Yeah.
My doctor's fantastic and very supportive, but his concern with going through the lawyer was he actually begged me to not go down that road, from the simple fact that he was just like, let it go. You're going up against a company that's big, that in all fairness doesn't care about the work staff. You're a number. They'll grind you truly grind you to the ground, mate. That'll be it. You'll be gone.
And that's scary to hear, because obviously you'd probably be thinking that yourself, going up against a company with money who, had disposable income that they could throw at a lawyer to just keep battling you until you eventually were ground down to nothing and gave up.
Yeah.
To think that yourself, but to have a doctor, someone highly regarded, tell you that's scary.
Oh, absolutely, Lockie. And do you know what he said? He said it from the angle of, I've seen patients of mine go down this road and get worse and worse and worse, Martin. I'm asking you to not go down that road. And I remember my response, and this is why I fought like I did. I said, during my time on site, 3 other people committed suicide. I am not going to allow this to continue to happen, because when I needed the company, they weren't there. Yet what I used to do within the company as one of the health coaches was communicate with Beyond Blue. And I can remember that during WA Mental Health Week, we had a stand there, and I had got all these booklets and pamphlets from Beyond Blue, and I hadn't been experiencing anything around mental health myself at this point. But I remember us having this stand, and after WA Mental Health Week, they told me to take the stand down. Yet the booklets and pamphlets were still going. I was still having to restock the shelf, this big display that they had given us. And I said, but everything's still going, so people are obviously getting value from this, but it doesn't fit in with our thingy, our routine. So I was like, what is happening here? If this is the mentality, and it was only made clearly aware once I went through what I went through, that it's, in all fairness, and I'm saying this from my own experience, it's all for show.
Yeah, of course.
It's not truly about making a difference in people's lives. It's about what fits in with the calendar so that it looks like we're doing stuff. And I said, there's no way I'm going to fight and fight and fight for this, because people need to know that as an employee with a company, especially when you're away from family and friends and you haven't got those people around you to love and support you, that the company needs to step up. And there really does need to be that acknowledgement that this is going on.
Yep.
Especially as a male as well.
Exactly.
Because females are great at speaking, and I know mental health's a big thing in within females. For men, from a young age, we're told to suppress it. Big men don't cry.
Yeah. And luckily, with people like yourself and with Julian, that's slowly starting to change, and I'm grateful for that, and it's grateful that we are living through that change. But most people still have that inbuilt, innate feeling that we do have to suppress our mental health and our feelings, which is sad.
It is, mate, and value yourself in that as well, because you're doing a fantastic thing of helping these messages get out to people who are in need. So, I
Thanks,
truly applaud you from the depth of my heart for what you're doing, because you're the interviewer. You're making it come together, which is fantastic. But that's it. It's really a case of, as a man, stepping up and being and holding the hand and saying, hey, look, I need help, or I'm here to speak and share my journey. And men, if you're feeling this, if you're resonating with this, I'm here to let you know it is not weak to voice what's going on. It isn't weak to actually say what's happened in your past or happening right now. We're all here. We're all brothers. We're here to support each other. Let's do it together.
Awesome,
So,
man.
yeah,
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
So I think we got to the point where you're seeing your doctor. He's telling you not to, and then you get the certificate. And did you say you got medication as well?
Yeah. So I had medication to get me through the day, and he said, look, this is the highest I'm allowed to give you. So that was what I was on. But I was also then struggling to sleep. I had a lot going on through my head when I went to bed. So then he gave me a different medication for me to sleep. So, and I didn't do pharmaceutical medication.
Yeah.
So this was a big thing, but I knew that I also, my doctor said you have to as well, because it's a workplace thing and you're going through work safe or whatever, I can't remember what it's called. So you're going through this is part of, you're in the so-called care, Martin. So anyway, I had the lawyer went through, and basically what ended up happening was this was around about April 2014. So May 2014, both my parents got married to different people.
Wow.
So they did it a week apart, so I could go back to the UK and enjoy it with them.
That is so cool.
Mate, it was brilliant. So my doctor said, look, go away, go and have time away. It'll be good for you, recharge the batteries around people you care about, because at this point in time in your life, you need them. So off I went, and I had 3 weeks there in the UK with my family, and it was fantastic. It was really good. Didn't talk much around what had gone on, but I just enjoyed my time with them. So anyway, I came back and I could really feel the energy here of, the lawyers were in touch with me and this is what's been going on and so on. And it just felt like I came back into it, as I said, seeing the company name, seeing the company building, seeing cars on the road was just triggering me still. So what I really started to do was detach myself from my partner. I felt unworthy. I felt like a failure to her. I didn't feel like, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to marry this girl and I'm supposed to be protecting her as the man.
Yeah.
I can't even look after myself. What good am I to her? So I really started to detach from her. Even intimacy was zero, because I was like, I can't even pleasure her or anything like that. This was this belief that I started to get.
So you felt really unworthy at this point?
Oh, there was no point.
Okay.
There was no point anymore. And I remember asking myself that question: am I of value? And it was like, nah, you can't. You've broken down on site. Which, in all fairness, the way that I reflected on site was the gamekeeper poking the lion, and the lion chooses to bite back, or it chooses to just cower in the corner, keep getting poked. And I bit back, but it was on deaf ears, and I just cowered in the corner and I broke down. And eventually, it was just, I'm too weak to speak. And
when you do speak, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because you'd written that letter, you'd given it in, but apparently they hadn't got anything from you.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he's grinning at you while he's telling you that.
Yeah. And what was really interesting as well, I'm glad you've just brought that up, because it's just made me remember, the 3 people I was connected with on site were told they weren't allowed to communicate with me.
Wow.
They were interviewed, and everything that they had said aligned with my 9-page report, because I actually sent the report to them for validation that nothing that I had said was made up. As in, and when I say made up, I don't mean as in just like me trying to make it sound all even better. I mean from a point of, was I mentally stable to share this out? Was it actually what happened? And they were like, yep, that's perfect. And I got it all in writing that, yep, that's exactly what happened, and you've worded it great and blah, blah, blah. and they were interviewed, and they said, each one of them said, Martin, I said, everything that you received on the 9-page document that we were shown, or I was shown, is exactly what happened on site. And they said to me, everything that you had written was changed on site. They implemented what you had written from the angle of that was a fault that needed to be improved. They changed it. So they've acknowledged your 9-page report, but they're telling you that it did never happen. So obviously I'm hearing this, and if I wanted to come from a place of ego and power, I'd be like, yes, there we go. But I was like, why would they do that? Why would they treat me like this? So I felt even more.
What was wrong with me? Why they couldn't just do that while I was there?
Yeah.
Why they couldn't accept it from me myself?
Exactly. And just hold the hand up and say, look, we're sorry this happened. We're going to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
We're going to improve based on your feedback. We're going to improve it. And they didn't. So I'm basically in this position where I'm disconnecting from my partner. When anybody comes around and putting on this brave face, this big smile if we have to go out anywhere, but I don't want to go anywhere. So the relationship started to really be affected, and we started to break away. But I loved her so deeply, but I didn't know how to share my love with her. And what was interesting was she worked high up in a hospital and dealt with mental health, yet didn't know how to deal with this. And
I guess it's a bit different when it's someone you really, really care about rather than just a patient.
So close, yeah. But for me in that time of pain, I couldn't see wood for trees.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, why doesn't she know what to do? I've got no idea, but she's skilled in this area, right? What do I do? So I just literally, like, we'd always go to bed, like, let's say 8 o'clock, and you know, you do your stuff. But we'd always have great conversations and really in depth and very open and stuff. But I'd now wait for her to go to bed, and once she was asleep, then I'd go to bed.
Wow,
and I'd wait for her to leave for work before I got up. So I just didn't want to be around because I just felt that weak. And what ended up happening was that I started to really think about suicide. And I remember going to my doctor and he's like, well, look, you know, how bad is it? What are your thoughts? What's going on? And I said, well, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And he's like, okay, you're at the planning phase. We need to deal with this now. So he sent me to a psychologist, and I get on really well with females, no problem there. But for some reason, I didn't resonate with her. I don't know what it was, but anyway, I just said, look, I'm not vibing with this lady. I had a few sessions with her, I just wasn't vibing. And he said, okay, I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist. A good friend of mine, be great. And we got on the psychiatrist and I like a house on fire. He's a Liverpool Football Club fan, so we were right off from the word go, mate. We were kicking goals. But I remember the first session I had with him, and we had a good chat around stuff. And then he got into a bit more depth, and you know, he went back into the childhood stuff. But he was like, "There's nothing there. It's definitely this stuff that's going on here that happened on site." And he just got into more depth, which obviously was opening me up more. And he opened up, and no pun intended, but it went well. And he said, he asked me a question that literally made me realize how bad a state I was in. And he said, do you see any point in living? Do you see any future for you from here? And I was just like, and I just burst into tears and said, there's nothing for me anymore. And he just went, you're going into hospital. So, sorry, I'll just have to backtrack that actually. I actually, when I planned out the suicide, I remember saying, right, I'm going to wait for my partner to go to work. And what I'm going to do is, when she's gone to work, I'm going to drive a knife into my heart. That's how I'm going to do it.
Jeez.
So what I did was I waited. She left, and I was like, right, okay, this is the day. Let's do it. So I've got a little staffy, and she's my little guardian angel. And what I did was I went and put her in the office. and shut the door because I was concerned that she might lick the knife and cut her tongue. That's the depth I was thinking. Yeah,
Far out,
deep.
man.
Really thinking deep. And I remember putting her in the office and going into the kitchen, and I remember...
So just let me put that in perspective. You cared more about your dog's tongue than you did about your life at that point.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Wow. I never
That
actually
is
thought
crazy.
about that. Yeah. Far out. I never thought about it like that. Well picked up. Yeah. Yeah, I did, clearly. And I just didn't want any pain to my dog. So I remember going into the kitchen, and I had the kitchen ran against the wall, the external wall, and then an island bench that came through. And I remember stood with my legs against the island bench, and right in front of me was a wall, and we had a big painting of the ocean and a boat. And I remember just there, and I got the knife, and I just remember crying and crying and crying, and bringing it up to my chest, and just breathing in deep and go and have a countdown. I think I had a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I was going to do it. And during that time of having it, it was actually touching my chest. I remember it just so like it was yesterday. And I remember, and I was crying, and I just opened my eyes as I started counting down, and right in front of me was my mum. Now, my mum's over 14,000 k's away in the UK, but as clear as day, I saw her there, and I saw her crying and in pain and saying, "Why didn't he reach out to me? Why didn't he just ask for help?" And I just instantly dropped the knife. I just instantly just dropped the knife. And as I dropped the knife, I fell down the cupboards, my back against the cupboards. I just fell down and just sat there crying and crying and crying. And I don't know how long I was there for, but I remember crawling along the floor and down the hallway and opening the door to the office. And as I opened the door, Bessie, my dog, leapt on me like she hadn't seen me for months and embraced me as if to say, "You're still here," as if she knew. Mate, it was just incredible, that level of awareness, and obviously I just cried and got my stuff together, and I never told my partner when she came home. And this disconnection continued to happen between us, and she one day sat and said, "Look, I need to have a chat with you." So we just sat down. She said, "What's going on? You've just been so distant from me. We don't have sex anymore. You don't kiss me. You don't hold me. We don't do anything. What's wrong?" And
yeah. So not only did you yourself feel unworthy, you would have been making her feel unworthy as well.
Yeah, well,
because you would have made her feel like she wasn't enough for you. You weren't having sex. That's a tough spot to be in,
mate. She said, like, "Have you fallen out of love with me?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, what's wrong? What have I done?" And I'm like, "You've done nothing. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to live." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I had a knife against my chest a few weeks ago, and I was just about to," she's like she's in complete shock. She had no idea it got that bad.
Wow.
So that was when I went to the doctor, and I told him about where I was, and then and then got to the psychiatrist, and going and seeing him and him asking me that question, the psychiatrist asked me that question, "Do you see a future for yourself moving forward?" And just like, "Nah." And I burst into tears, and he's just like, he couldn't calm me down, and he said, "Martin, I can't let you leave my office until you calm down. I'm going to see if there's a bed for you in the Marion Centre, which is a private mental institute." And I was like, "I ain't going in there." The old ego stood up strong then.
Yeah, that's a scary thought, man.
Yeah, I'm a man. I don't go through this. I'm going into a mental institute. Hell no. I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking is white coat, arms tied behind my back, padded room kind of thing. And he's like, "No, you're misunderstanding it. It's a very safe place to be in, and we look after you there, and we know how to deal. And plus, you're out the environment that's affecting you as well." So I went home. I was allowed to go home, and he said, "Look, there's no beds, but we'll call you when there's a bed." And I decided that I wasn't going to go in. But I had an appointment between then and when I left. I think I had like about a week gap. Now, I had downloaded an audio during my time. I got into network marketing for a bit, and I've got a lot to thank network marketing. I hand on heart say it saved my life. And the reason why I say that, Lockie, is because of the personal development in it. Because I downloaded, I'd never heard of personal development until I got involved in network marketing, and I had downloaded an audio called "Victim or Victor" by a pastor called Dr. Charles Stanley. And I remember, and I was brought up a Catholic, and I remember starting to listen to it for about 5 minutes and going, whoa, this is way too religious-y kind of thing, at the time of listening to it.
Yeah.
However, it came on my iPod whilst I was walking Bessie around the lake, and it was a 45-minute walk, and the audio was 45 minutes. And I remember it coming on, and my head was just somewhere else, but it was just noise, in all fairness, in my head. And anyway, it started to really connect with me, because this journey was actually, I don't know which way around, I think it's a prime minister, but it's a true story about this guy before he gets into power as a prime minister. And along his journey, he's getting attacked by his closest family members, by these people who he respects around him, and he doesn't understand why they're treating him this way. And what he said was that when he got into power, when he became a president, I think it was, and bear in mind this is 4 years ago, so I'm doing my best to remember. When he became into power, the challenges he was faced with he was able to deal with them because of what he was faced with his family members.
Yeah.
They helped him gain those tools. And he said that God can't be here in physical form. What he chooses to do is he chooses to come through people and share the message you need to hear. And if it's a message where it's someone that needs to be nasty towards you, they'll be nasty. If it's someone of empowerment, he'll find the right person that will share empowerment with you. And I instantly went, bloody hell, that's why these people treated me like they did on site. I wasn't supposed to be there. Because I then realized, I got this incredible heat from my toes right up to my crown, and I was grinning from ear to ear. And I knew in that moment then that what had happened on site was them teaching me that, or giving me the message that I wasn't supposed to be there. I was actually bigger than the mining industry. And that's no disrespect for anybody there, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't my journey.
That's a powerful shift,
mate.
Going from victim to hero, man.
Mate, it was phenomenal. To victor. Like that, it was a massive shift. So I actually went back for my second appointment with the psychiatrist, and I'm telling him about this, and I'm like, I'm healed. and he said to me, Martin, this is incredible message that you've had. I think it's fantastic, but you need to go in. You need to spend time out the environment that you're in. Your relationship's breaking down with your fiance. You need some time out to just heal yourself, because with the way that you are, you will make yourself be busy to avoid what's going on. And I was like, bloody hell, he knows me, eh? and I was like, and he calmed me down. He got so like, and I went, okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, cool. However, what ended up happening was after that, my fiance at the time went on holiday with two of her friends, and obviously there was massive disconnection with us. So I found that anyway when she came back, I saw some stuff going through her laptop, and she'd been cheating on me.
Okay.
So, and I went up to her and said, hey, you know what's going on here? And she's like, it's nothing's happened or anything. And I said, well, I've just seen all the messages come through. So she was like, oh. And I was devastated, Lockie, because not just because of our relationship, but I met her 6 months into me emigrating, and I emigrated on my own.
Yeah.
And this is 5.5 years later. So her parents were my parents. That's the way I viewed it. We were very close and stuff, and all her friends were my friends.
So you're losing your family
literally,
as well as losing your partner.
Pretty much everybody I knew, I was losing. So yeah, and so I was like, far out, what's going on?
And again, it's going through that same thing that you went through in mining. Why am I not good enough?
Yeah, 100%, mate. And yeah, that was really the nail in the coffin for me. And I remember one of my good friends, she had been in the Marion Centre before, and she had said to me, she said, Martin, please go. If you get a bed, please go. Because I'd already turned down 2 beds at this point.
Wow, okay.
Because I was like, I ain't going in. I'm all right. I'm healed.
And I think most people would as well.
Yeah, it's scary.
Because it's like in modern society, going to a mental health hospital or institute means you're broken.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, what are my mates going to say? What are my family going to think? What about the people around here? What about those people who actually bullied me in their minds? They're going to be like, yes, we broke him. Because that was all the messages that I was hearing.
And it's, I mean, for a man, even, because I've had it myself, I broke down on site in my supervisor's office, and then I got flown off. So I know what it feels like.
Yeah, okay,
and just having that, knowing that you were a man who broke down in an environment where you're supposed to be a man's man, that's bad enough as it is. But having to admit yourself to something like that, I can imagine that's scary, and that would have taken the rest of what you had left.
Oh,
the self-worth and that value.
Well, absolutely, mate. You know, and she said to me, look, Martin, please, if they do. Well, what ended up happening was another bed became available, and I booked myself in for it. But I think it was a week before it was available. So with what had happened with my partner, her dad decided to buy me out the house. So, but the contract was I had 2 weeks to get out. And that was the agreement when we got together and when we bought the house. If we ever broke up, and the other one wanted to buy the other one out, 2 weeks to leave. Well, that's all right, but I've got no family here, nowhere to go, nothing. I've got all this gear. So I remember downloading more of Dr. Charles Stanley's audios. And I don't believe anything's random. However, this day I'm packing the house, and I'm on my own. I didn't get anybody else over to help me. I'm doing it all. I'm crying, and I've got this audio comes on about suicide by Dr. Charles Stanley, and it's a true story again about, I believe it's a Marine who decides that he's no value anymore. What he's seen he can't cope with, wants to take his life. He's going to be leaving his family behind, and puts a gun in his mouth about to blow his head off. And something says, no, it's not for you, don't do it. And he pulls the gun out anyway, continues going along his journey, and then next thing decides that he's going to take his life again. Now, I'm going from inside the house, out the front door, putting my boxes in the garage. I've built a pergola a few years before out the back. My psychiatrist has said to me, it's a very interesting way you are going to take your life, Martin, by a knife, because most men hang themselves. Now, all that I'm thinking when I hear the next message that comes through on the audio is the guy decides to tie his own noose. I'm looking at the pergola and thinking to myself, I need some rope. Even though I've had this message previously, I'm now thinking, I don't want to be here anymore again. So all I'm doing, I'm crying as I'm going in, I'm crying as I'm going out, I'm crying as I'm going in, boxing up. And he says this Marine ties his own noose, he stands on this chair, puts his head through it, and he just stops and pauses. And he's thinking about his family, he's thinking about everything, and he's like ready to go and kick the chair away. And something says, no, it's not your time, and takes his head out. And in that moment, I just went, that's the second message I've received from God. That I am not supposed to take my life, that is not my journey. There is something for me here on this earth. I don't know what it is, but there's something here for me. So I'm crying hysterically then, with joy as well as pain. And I go, fortunately for me, my friend, he had actually had to go away, and he said, look, stay in my house until you go in the hospital. So I stayed in his house for a couple of days, and then I went into the hospital, and I went in there, mate, with this level of clarity, like I am healed, I'm okay, I don't need to be in here, but I'm in here, I've been chosen to be in here to help other people.
That's a good way to look at it.
That was exactly how I went into the Marion Centre. And I remember that first day, this little Irish nurse came over to me and she said, Martin, I've seen you wandering around and you've got a big smile on your face. You seem like you've settled in quite well. And the other nurses have noticed you and said, he seems like he's all right. And I just want to check in. Are you okay? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I've had these. I told her I've had these messages, and I said, and I've realised I'm in here to help other people. So, if anybody needs my help, just let them know I'm here. And she was only about 4'11", so she's looking up to me, mate. And my mum's the same height. My mum's a little Italian lady, frightening as hell, but lovely. And she got hold of me, this little Irish lady, and it was exactly the way my mum used to get hold of me. She looked up to me and she points at me. She's like, "You're in here for nobody but yourself. Don't be thinking about anybody else, and don't be giving anybody else the time that you need to be healing yourself." She put the fright of my life into me, So that was when I really realized that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is for me. And I remember the next day I went into my first session, and it was very, very weird to be in there. I felt safe, but at the same time I felt uncomfortable because I believed, as I mentioned, that everything's going to be great, but everybody else in there's in a lot of pain and a lot of very disconnected.
Yeah.
And I was then concerned with me being in that environment. Is it going to bring me down? Is it actually going to take me back to that place of pain? So, and I shared that with the nurse, and the nurse said to me, "Look, Martin, you don't worry about anybody else. Just do what's set out for you, because it's specifically set out to help you move forward." So that's what I did. I went into the sessions, and I think the psychiatrist came in on day one at the end and was like, "Look, I'm checking in, just how are things?" And I told him what I've been feeling, and he said, "Look, Martin, I'm going to give you an overview here, because the type of person that you are, you're like the lead husky. You just take massive action. I believe you're going to get exactly what you need out of your stay here. It's a 2-week course, and after that, it repeats itself." He says there's people that have been in here for 2 weeks. There's people that are in here 6 months.
Wow.
And some of them are still here now today. What you get out of this is entirely up to you. So all I heard in that conversation was 2 weeks and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. And he said it's going to get hard, it's going to get uncomfortable, but if you give it everything that you need to, you'll get what you need. I went, right, okay, no problem. And in all fairness, Lockie, along those 2 weeks, it was every day. I mean, fortunately, I was allowed out. Some people weren't allowed out, but wow. I was allowed out after we had done everything we needed to do. So from, I think, 4 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, I was allowed out if I wished to go out.
Okay. And
I didn't go out that often, but sometimes I did. But some people, weren't allowed out. So, but every day you go in there and it's a safe environment. Look, it's a fantastic environment. Marion Centre, highly recommend it. Very grateful for my time there, because everybody in there was asked the question as a community in my room, my group, do you feel safe here? And everybody said, yeah. Do you feel safe outside? Everybody, including me, said no. The stigma, the association with it, and no, and the pressure. So we all had a similar reason for being there. We all had a common denominator, and that helped us become friends quick and support each other. So obviously with my level of awakening, shall we call it, I felt that I needed to be of service to others as well. Not as a counsellor, but just to be there for people. So I went in there, and don't get me wrong, some days were really hard. The first thing they started with, what's your anxiety level on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really bad, I need help here. And some people are just walking, as soon as they heard that question, walk out and want to come back. And I watched that, and I was seeing that, and I was kind of going, this is why people aren't getting what they need from it. This is why people are here longer than 2 weeks. I'm going to push on through. And there was times where it was really hard, where I was in tears, where I just wanted to walk out and go to my room, but I didn't. And I basically got to the point where some people in there were saying, what are you even here for? Because I think within by into week 2, I was up on doing stuff on the whiteboard, with them, and the nurses were encouraging me to do it because I was actually adding value into the group. But also, I believe it was from a way of showing them that if you actually take action and work on yourself, this is the result.
Awesome, man.
Look at him. So for me, I walked out of there and they said, look, there's a series of different modules you can do. So the next one is cognitive behavioral therapy. And I was like, yeah, okay, if that's what's recommended, they said you do it as an outpatient so you can go home. And I'm like, I haven't got a home. I've got nowhere to go. Well, during this time, my now best friend, Dave Cottam, at the time we were only acquaintances. And he said to me, look, there's a spare room at my house, mate. Come and stay here. You don't need to pay for anything. Just come here and stay here and let's help you get back on your feet. This is just this guy that I knew of, so... And he was like just the guardian angel to me, like just opened the door, and his wife was just incredible and really looked after me. So, I did it as an outpatient for 2 weeks, and then the next course was a mindfulness. But I kind of at that point was like, I'm feeling pretty good. I'll do the mindfulness later, because part of me was with the mindfulness was like, that sounds a bit woo-woo-y.
Yeah.
Too much of that spiritual stuff. Yeah, it's like, I remember thinking, I don't live in Frio, I don't need to do that mindfulness stuff, and that was just the perception I had. So anyway, what ended up happening was I met a girl who became my girlfriend then, and I moved in with a couple of my mates. And anyway, I met this girl, and our relationship spiraled forward very quickly. And she was incredible. She was just, she helped me learn loads more around nutrition and stuff, and was just a great supporter. I mean, we on our first date, we had a great chat. We were down on the beach, and she's like, she went to kiss me, and I didn't kiss her, and she thought that was a bit weird. She messaged me afterwards. She thought that was a bit weird. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I caught up with her because she was living in Dunsborough. She was moving up to Perth. Yeah. So I caught up with her 2 weeks later, and she said, while we were out on that, she said, look, we're having such a good time. She said, I've got to ask you, are you all right, or is there a catch here? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, something's not right. And then I just told her the whole story. Like, she's like, whoa, what the hell? She had no idea, like, I'd gone through that. And why would she anyway? But then she shared what she had gone through, which was pretty intense with regards to a partner she was with for 18 months. She was in love with and found out he was married.
Wow.
But didn't know. So that was intense for her. So we kind of got together and we're helping each other and supporting each other. But, we were really, really close, and it was a great relationship. And she really helped me a lot. And funnily enough, whilst we were on holiday, so we went to Bali for over New Year, and we got a phone call from Dave, and he said, mate, I've spoken to my workforce. We're going to do a free fitness challenge thing. I think it's going to be great for you, for your mental health, to have you doing stuff that you're good at and that but also you love to help people. So let's do this, and we'll do it for free. And I was like, this sounds great. He said, we'll just do 2 sessions a week. It'll be like 1 hour each. It's only 2 hours work a week. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything because I'm not mentally stable to.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So my holiday with Lauren turned out to be
planning session,
building this whole program. And she loves nutrition anyway, so and she loves cooking. So we had this great thing, and we created it, and she was really enjoying it. So we came back and we started running it, and it was all, like I said, for free. I think we had 32 people come along, and it was really good for me. It just gave me this sense of purpose and a need. People need me.
Yeah, and a return to that identity that you had.
Absolutely, without burning myself out.
Yeah.
I mean, because I went from, remember, 13 days straight, 12-hour days. So this 2 hours a week was nothing, and it was just doing something I loved. So, but my lawyer said to me, be very careful, because if they get a private investigator on you, what they're looking for is he depressed? Is he out having fun? And I was like, oh yeah. He says, but look, you could be down on the beach with your family, playing with children, having a good time and laughing with them, and they'll use it against you. So I was like, wow. And he's like, mate, trust me, because obviously they got lawyers involved.
That is not a way to live your life in fear of that, hey?
Exactly. So this is where then he said to me, are you sure you want to continue? Because you're wanting to push forward with your life, but this is always going to hold you back until it's dealt with. And I'm like, I am not letting them continue to treat people like they treated me. So he's like, right, okay, fair enough, we'll keep pushing on. So in the back of my mind, everything that I ever did, Lockie, was, am I being watched? And it got to a point where, I don't know, it was maybe a year on, I was like, I've got to let go of this. I can't live my life wondering if every time I walk out the door, am I being filmed? Am I somebody watching me? Because I'm not being true to myself. So anyway, we did all that, and we did it for free. And I ended up getting to, we mentioned earlier around the water and stuff. I got introduced to this water machine, and it really helped me with my health, especially around mental health. My clarity was phenomenal. All my joints and aches and pains had gone. So I became very passionate about the water. And what I did was I spoke to Dave about it, and then Dave didn't believe in the water for like 6 months and was telling me, it's all snake oil and all this crap. But all these people I was sharing the water with who were sick with like cancer, diabetes, epilepsy were getting better. And the water's not the cure. The body's the hero. But when you fuel it right, as you're fully aware, it works. Now, I said to Dave, there's something in this water. I don't know what it is. And he's like, mate, look at all the people you've helped. What about you don't focus anymore on doing nutrition and movement? Like, still do the free stuff down at the Langley Park and that, but start educating the community on water because nobody else is doing it. And he said, look, I'll support you. I'll do everything that needs to be done from a business point, but you just talk. And I was like, all right, cool.
At this point, had you given up chasing or going down that route with the lawyers?
No. That was my thing had been, I'm leaving them to do their work.
Okay.
So I was still very much involved with them, but it was very rare that maybe every couple of months they touch base and just say, this is where it's up, or this is where it's at to, or anything. Or can you give us this, whatever it be. So obviously I just went out doing these free educational talks, and then it turned into educational talks on alkalizing your body and then detoxifying your life and your home, as we spoke about earlier. And it was all free, all just free to the community. And we got obviously quite a good following where people were just really liking what we were doing. And I had this huge sense of purpose. There was a reason for me to be here. I was adding value to people. People were telling me how I've changed their children's lives and their lives and so on. And, I remember one lady crying at a business meeting that I attended, saying that her son's life's been changed forever because he's got a rare case of epilepsy, and she was a 24-hour care nurse for him. Her life's changed now because she doesn't have to look after him as much. So all of a sudden I'm like, my life's completely shifted. My own health's got a lot better. I then shifted more, and I went from like a high animal protein diet to vegetarian, then to, organic paleo, vegetarian. Now I'm plant-based. And I'm not that I'm recommending that for everybody. It just worked for me. But it worked for me on a spiritual, conscious level.
Yeah.
Now, when I say spiritual conscious, those two words would never have left my mouth in connection with myself before what I went through. So what ended up happening whilst I was with Lauren, she's cool with me using her name and stuff. I met a guy. I went to an event that Lauren encouraged me to go to, and it was the day after Australia Day, and we were both really hungover. And I was like, it's only $50 each a ticket. We're not going because we'd already paid for it. She's like, no, let's go. You never know. I met this guy. And we got on like a house on fire, and his wife teaches spiritual retreats. And we became really close friends as a group, Lauren and I and them. And anyway, Lauren and I were getting to a point in our relationship. So fast forwarding now, Lauren and I were getting to a point where we were detaching. And she had said to me, I think we've both got what we needed from the relationship because we've both supported us back to a good place. She said, but in all fairness, Martin, I feel like I'm holding you back from going and doing some incredible work that's going to have a positive change in the world. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's time for you to open your wings and start flying, because what you're doing is you just love people and you want to help them. And you'll work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help others. And I can't be with somebody that's like that. I need to be with somebody that works 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and has the rest of the evenings and the weekends to do stuff. And you just can't give me that. And I knew I couldn't. because that's not the way I want to live my life.
Yeah.
So she said, look, I really want to let you go, let you fly and do your greatest work. And to me, that's a true sense of love. That's love in its deepest meaning there. To
it's
see
a big
somebody's
decision to make.
Yeah.
It's a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah. And to do it for somebody else. And, you know, her and I are so good friends. Very, very close, great friends. And I have so much gratitude and love. And I remember we met up because we got another staffy along the journey, and she ended up... because they ended up fighting my two staffies once Frank got old enough, and Lauren took Frank. So we catch up occasionally, and I go and see Frank. And I just said to her, look, I adore you. I love you so much. And it's not from a place of wanting to be with her and intimate. It's from a place of appreciating who she truly is in her soul.
Yeah.
And I said that to her recently. But what ended up happening was when we broke up, I had a 4-day emotional release where I was physically shaking and crying, and I couldn't get out of bed apart from to go to the toilet. So literally I didn't eat. I was just in such a mess. And I was staying in our house, her house, and she was staying at her mum's, and she'd come back and check on me. And then she gave me plenty of time to sort myself out and move out because I had nowhere to go. So... Anyway, during that time, my friend reached out and said, look, I'm doing a retreat in Perth. You coming? I've already booked your room. I've already got your name down. You coming? And I was like, no, I'm not going to that. I don't need it. I'm all right. And she's like, you coming? And anyway, she kept ringing me and telling me I'm coming. And eventually I went, yeah, okay, I'll go. And that changed everything for me, Lockie. That it was I think it was 4.5 or 5 days. And we filled out a questionnaire on day one. And basically it just said that the answers that it came to was that I didn't love myself. I was struggling with wanting to be here again. Was there anything for me? And day 4, and the end of day 4 or 5 or 4.5 days, whatever it was, we had to do the questionnaire again on a fresh one.
Yep. And
then bring them together. And I'll tell you what, mate, the shift that had taken place, if I could have snogged myself, I would have done. I was awesome. So in love with myself. I felt so much love.
What did you cover throughout that retreat, and like what sort of modalities did you use, and what did you learn from them?
Great question. I'm going to have to go back and remember here. So it was really, I mean, I don't know the structure. I can't remember the structure off the top of my head, but the one thing that I do know that stood out so strongly to me was that there was one other guy there that was kind of dragged by his wife, but there was 9 of us in total, and obviously the rest were women. And I could have easily had the attitude of, when the other person's talking and sharing what they've gone through, and they're in a place of pain because they've been triggered by something, I could have easily gone, that's their problem and nothing to do with me, and switched off. I'll let them have their moment. However, what I noticed was everybody who shared, their message related to part of my journey and my past.
Cool.
So I realized that, in all fairness, everyone that was there was supposed to be there for the perfect reason. There could have been different people there, or I could have been somewhere else, but I was supposed to be there in that moment, because everyone who was speaking, and when I was really listening, I was like, I could reflect and take it to a situation that I had gone through and experienced. So we worked through different things, and we worked through ego. You know, I talk a lot on ego, and we worked through just reflection and understanding what was going on in your life, and the blessings within that, and the people you've met on your journey, and the people that were there right then.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it really shifts your whole mindset, because it's easy to play the victim and go, oh, these people are in my life, and why have I got that bitch as an auntie and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
she's my greatest teacher once you accept her. And just in case any of my aunties do listen, I'm not thinking of any of you. So, yeah, and you know what? I just came out of it just like, wow. So it's just so much love for self, which I think is so important.
So that's really what you've got out of that spiritual retreat, is just finding that self-worth, because you'd lost it while you were on site, feeling like you weren't good enough because they were putting you in a position where you would fail, and then going to that meeting and having him grin at you while he told you that he didn't actually receive that letter. And then obviously losing both of your partners, feeling unworthy and becoming so detached. Yeah. You finally found that in yourself, for yourself. And I think you spoke a little bit about you found forgiveness within that as well. Was that just for others, or was that for yourself as well?
Well, it was for both. I think with having that powerful message from Dr. Charles Stanley there, or God, however you want to look at it, forgiveness for those people acting the way they did, behaving the way they did. And in all fairness, mate, I hand on heart, if I had seen those two guys, hand on heart, I would have killed them. That's how much hatred, anger I had internally for them. And for me at that point, when I did the retreat, I was able to let go of it, because I realized that what was actually happening was that, I mean, I refer to it like Dr. Wayne Dyer does. He talks about the snake bite. Nobody dies from a snake bite. What they die from is the venom that continues to course through the blood that affects the body. So I chose in that moment to go, do you know what? This is where I can choose to forgive them. And as I let go of that and chose, in all fairness, to send them love and thank them for the messages that they gave me, because in all fairness, if they hadn't have been the way they were, I would still be on site.
Exactly.
And I wasn't there to be on site. I mean, I looked and reflected on those 32 people whose lives I'd positively impacted and said, look at these lives that I've been able to positively impact. If I was on site, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
Not that there wouldn't have been lives I'd been able to help there, but I realized that I was far bigger and my mission was to be here.
But you had to reach those depths. So you had an emotional understanding, so you could express empathy and that empathy and emotional intelligence, so that you could resonate with someone who was going through something, and then bring that knowledge that you had acquired over that time to someone to help them in that situation.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's powerful, and I think that's where people find the greatest shifts, because they go from that victim mentality to this point where they can now use this lesson, something that's as traumatic as sexual abuse or domestic violence, and turn it on its head. Instead of being something that's held you back and means you're worthless or not enough, it's something that propels you on to make someone else feel like they are enough.
Yeah, absolutely, spot on. Great way
awesome,
of covering it all. And you know, mate, I've done. I mentioned earlier, you know, I speak a lot around forgiveness and stuff, and because it's been the most empowering thing that I've chosen to do. And I mean, Mark Twain said it so beautifully. You know, forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds upon the heel that has crushed it. So when you think about that, and I always do love to repeat it because it just really sinks, because people hear it the first time and go, wow, and it's like, forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds upon the heel that has crushed it. So the moment that that heel, or your heel, touches and crushes that violet, its way of saying, I forgive you for killing me, is to send out a beautiful scent.
That's really powerful.
You know, it's literally life-changing when we choose to live that. And also when we reflect on the past, because for many of us, we are in our past. And we look at those people and we blame certain people in certain situations. And in all fairness, everything's based around relationships and what he said, she said. When we choose to let go of that and forgive that, we start looking internally. And we start feeling everything we've got. And I know when I said before, and you brought me up on this about the love. There's so many people who do some great things for others and choose to not do great things for themselves.
Yes.
And I had a guy recently that at an event I spoke at, he stood up, we had a question at Q&A, and he said to me, he asked a group of us, because there was 4 speakers, and he asked for each of our advice or our input, and he said, my wife, and his wife was one of the speakers, my wife took me up to the mirror and got me to look in the mirror at myself and said, say I love you. And he broke down in tears and he said, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And it came over to me, and do you know what, Lucky? I mean, I'm known for not planning any of my talks. I don't wing it as in I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just I choose to be a vessel
to let it flow,
speak from my heart and channel whatever needs to come through. And I don't say that because I'm all enlightened and high and mighty. It's just this what I believe is my gift, what I've become aware of, and I choose to speak from my heart. And I believe when we speak from our heart, it's 100% authentic to the message we've got to share. Now, when I stood up and I was given the mic, I remember something like this, because it was recorded and sent to me, and somebody's like, "Watch what you said," because I had no idea what I'd said, and I basically said something like, "You have an incredible ability," because I do know him personally, but through his wife. I said, "You have an incredible ability to send love to others, to care for others, and give them messages and give them exactly what they need, the energy they need to move forward." And he was like, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "You couldn't give that unless you already had it internally for yourself. So you can only give what you've got. And therefore, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel that you can't say, 'I love you,' you truly can if you go within, because you're saying that to other people along your journey." And in that moment, you felt this like awareness that just took place. It was kind of like a breeze of beautiful air, like spring air coming through. And he just woke up to it. And he burst into tears and came over to me and he hugged me and so on. And he said, and I saw his wife a couple of days later at an event, a couple of weeks later at an event, and she came over to him and said, "You're his hero." He said, and she thanked me so much. She said, "He's a different man." And it's not and it's not to degrade myself, but it's not because of me. I was chosen to be that messenger in that moment in time for him, as was Dr. Charles Stanley for me.
It's awesome.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, whoever's listening to this right now, I'm the messenger for them, as are you.
Yeah, and I think most people, when they aren't going through something like a spiritual awakening, like you did with the retreat, it might even just be this feeling or this urge you have. You might feel compelled to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, like, you looked really nice today. Like, you made me happy today." And that might just be what they needed to get them through that day. And that's what you did for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's a blessing. And these are the moments that make you know that your life's worthwhile. I mean, I'm quite how do I put it? Active on social media.
Yeah,
I've got a presence. And I had a guy reach out to me earlier this year who basically sent me a message and said, "Do us all a favor, and you should have done us all a favor and taken your life." Now, you know, to the wrong person in the wrong state, that message could have been carried through and the person gone and done it.
exactly.
Fortunately for me, I was in a better state. I was in a strong state, and I was able to deal with it. And our communication has such an impact. I learned more around language, such an impact positively or negatively. And I hear people very often say, I mean, people all like no doubt listen to this, or people even saw that post where some people were attacking him and so on. And because I actually did it, I shared more around that post. I took a screenshot of it and I did it, and I didn't actually blank out his name. I didn't do it to be nasty to him and highlight him. I did it from an angle of, I actually said, if anybody knows this guy, please reach out to him and check in he's all right, for one. And I'm not posting this for you to go and attack him. I'm posting it from a place of, people tend to do that when they're in a state of pain, or something's going on in their life that they don't know how to deal with, and they see something better that's going on for someone else that they maybe wish to experience in that kind of life.
Yeah.
And it's a voice of, well, why the hell have you got it and I'm not getting it?
Yeah, well, I experienced that with, I had an article written about my story in relation to FIFO and the depression, and I think the title was something like, I just wanted to take my life, or I felt like I wasn't enough, and it sort of pinned the blame on FIFO, which isn't the entirety of the story, but it made for a good headline. And what people did was they read through that, and then I had so many dudes just commenting. I didn't read any of the comments because I didn't want to, spiral down into that. But I was told of so many people saying, just fucking kill yourself, like, just nick yourself, what a poofter. And I could easily have, like, I guess, dwelled on that. Why do people want me to kill myself? But I chose to take the stance of, similar to you, there's something going on there. They're so insecure, whether it's about me speaking ill of the FIFO industry, something that they depend on, or whether they see me coming through the other side and they're in this dark place and they want to get to that, but I don't know how, so they're going to try and pull me down like a crab in a bucket.
Yeah, definitely. Well done, bro. The fact that you shared your journey, what you went through, it's a lot of power, a lot of strength, internal strength. So I applaud you for doing that, because you're obviously going to make a massive, no doubt already have, but certainly continue to move forward, make a massive impact in the world. And yeah, it's just, I believe it's just from people in a place of pain that they say that. And I got so many private messages in regards to how I chose to respond to that, and I highlight the word there, chose, because my ego, the old Martin, wanted to let rip with him. He lives in WA. I could have found out where he is, who he is, and gone and had a right good go at him. But what would that have done? And I chose to actually send him love. Now that might sound wishy-washy to some people, especially as a male. But that's where actual change takes place in a positive way.
Exactly, and I keep going back to it, but if all you attract is what you put out, then if you're retaliating with that negativity, you're only going to attract more of it into your life. So if you respond with love, compassion for their insecurity, for their hurt and their pain, then you're only going to get that sort of high vibration energy back.
Exactly, 100%, bro. Yeah, and that's really what's ended up happening. I've looked around at a lot of the people I've become connected with since what's happened, and the value. There's some people, and I don't use this term lightly, but the earth angels I have around me. I have the angels around me all the time.
I've never heard that, man. That's awesome.
Mate, earth angels are, like yourself, I class you as an earth angel, because the work that you're doing is making a positive effect in society that needs to happen. And there's the people that come into our lives that really do, you just know when you actually meet them and you connect with them, you're like, this person is truly aligned authentically with their soul's purpose of why it chose to come here. And that's why, we met for the first time at the weekend, and we spoke briefly on Messenger, but I knew and could feel your energy from the moment that I met you. And that's what's so powerful, because when we have that shift, and when we truly actually detach from what has been our conditioning in society and so on, and what people are saying and all this kind of stuff in the materialistic world that we live in, and we go internally, we stop opening the door externally, we open internally, and we actually connect, and we see things differently. And I think we spoke about gratitude earlier on.
Yes.
Gratitude's one of the most empowering things anybody can do, and when we actually do it from a place of what I've already got, to think that I've not got what I need, in all fairness, is a level of insanity, because everything I've got right here and now is exactly all that I need on this journey. And the blessing and the gift that I've got, apart from my physical body being perfectly fine, I've got a voice. I've got ears. I can hear somebody else sharing what they're going through and hear the pain that someone's going through. And I can share what I've gone through. And I can help empower other people. And if I lost my voice tomorrow, I can do sign language. There's so much that we can give to the world that can positively impact people that have chosen to come here and make that difference. Because all it is, in all fairness, exactly what it was for me. And I always hold my hand up. I got lost on my journey. However, I needed to get lost. I needed to be knocked down that mountain to the bottom, to be awakened, so I could get up and realize, hey, I was on the wrong path. I took the wrong route up that mountain. I'm going to go on the right one this time, and I'm going to go on the one that, in all fairness, aligns with me authentically, truthfully, and 100% connection. And I know if I believe internally via my intuition and follow my journey, it'll be the right path, and I'll be connected with the right people and do the right things that I came here to do.
It's beautiful, right? And that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's probably the most powerful message that someone could take away from this, is to go with what your heart tells you to go with, what your intuition tells you to go with. Because we have it for a reason.
Yeah.
We have it for a fucking reason.
Yeah.
And when we follow it, good things happen. Because we're supposed to go down that route in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, gonna fast forward to back to that spiritual retreat and you having this awakening and realizing that you have to forgive these people because you weren't meant to be there in the first place, and they were there to teach you that lesson, as you said, this message, this vessel from God to give you that message. So what happens in the end? Do you let go of that lawsuit, or speaking to the company through the lawyers?
Oh, right. Oh, I forgot about that lawsuit.
Just to wrap up the story, because obviously you've gotten to this place now where you're speaking, inspiring and empowering people, but is that still around?
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up, Lockie. They're really good point. So what ended up happening was I actually did have a private investigator on me.
Wow.
Yeah. So what ended up happening, I had a meeting with the private investigator, and he said, he basically just showed me all this footage, and he sent it to the lawyers and everyone. And basically what he showed me was, whenever I was down doing the fitness, if you had come over and you were talking to me and I was laughing with you, that was what was shown. And I remember him saying to me, well, you're laughing there, it doesn't look like you're very depressed. And I had a back injury a few years before, and I was bending down, laying cones down. He's like, oh, someone told me about a back injury. You're laying cones down fine. There's clearly nothing wrong with your back. So I'd had 2 disc herniations. I had 9 months of physio. So he said, oh, there's nothing wrong with your back. I had 3 psychiatrists who diagnosed me with clinical depression, 2 who were the company's ones that they ordered me to go to. And he turns around to me and said, you're not depressed. So it was 7 hours, this interview.
Wow.
And I was fuming, like absolutely, and emotionally wrecked.
Of course.
Because I was then all of a sudden, back down this rabbit hole
back
of
to
pain
the victim.
again. Yeah, back to it all again. And telling me that I was a liar and so on. And anyway, we ended up having a chat, and he just said to me, look, Martin, as an outsider, this looks like you're perfectly fine. As somebody who's involved in this investigation, it looks like you're perfectly fine. But I'm also aware of all the doctor's reports and stuff, so I would clearly have to take them into consideration. And based on the medical reports, I'd have to say you've got clinical depression. But viewing the footage alone, I'd say there's nothing wrong with you. So anyway, what ended up happening was, because of me doing the fitness, the company turned around and said that I was perfectly fine to go back to work. And I said, it's 2 hours a week, not over 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's at home with my best friend, around people, not away in the mine in sight. So anyway, I ended up where my lawyer just got to the point and said, look, Martin, because of the footage, they're just going to try and drag you through and say that there's nothing ever wrong with you. And even though my doctor said it was all fine and stuff, he said it's just not worth it. So I ended up having to, I think the only word to use will be settle. But basically, and it was interesting because I had quite a few reports of people I used to work with saying, oh, he's only doing it for the money. The money that I did get awarded some money. The money that I did get wasn't enough to pay for my medication or my time in the hospital.
Wow.
So it was actually of no true value to me. And because I wasn't doing it for that, I wasn't bothered. But my lawyers, obviously, they had to be paid.
Yeah.
And so on. So they got me a little bit of money, which helped me pay for my time, because it wasn't cheap to be in a private mental institute. And that was all being funded by myself because the company weren't paying me. So I let go of that. And in all fairness, Lockie, it was a huge weight that was left off my shoulders when I did. And my doctor was relieved to know that I had done it and I was still all right, still healthy. So so that was gone.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson you'd take away from that period of your life? And then I'll ask you a couple quick questions to wrap up, because we're running out of battery red hot.
Oh, right. Sorry, bro. basically the biggest thing that I took out of that is to trust in the journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that would be just trust, have no attachment to it, and realize everything's happening for you than to you.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
What would you say the quality of your life is like now?
Quality of my life. I think the easiest way to describe it would be flow. I'm in flow, mate, and I live each day as it comes. Yes, I have goals, I have vision, I have dreams. I have no attachment to them. So I just enjoy my life each day, and that has really helped me move forward and just know that, as long as I'm taking a step each day to become better, I'm making a positive difference in someone's life.
That's awesome. Not being too attached to whether it's too good or too bad.
Well, the world's made up of dichotomies, so there's no night without day, and there's no front without back. So that's it. I accept that when I'm having a challenge, because I still have challenges, still get frustrated, still get angry. I also know that in a moment I can change my state, and I can reflect and go, well, hang on, what's the opposite of this? What's the lesson to learn, and where's the solution?
That's
and
awesome,
I'll always
man.
find it.
What have you added to your life or removed from it to improve the quality of it?
Oh, powerful question. So removal has been some people around me who have been negative, not really of true value.
Yeah.
And I don't mean as in going up to them and saying, you're no value, bugger off. Just being conscious of the people who are around me, my environment. That's really helped me move forward. And I work on myself daily. Every day I'm listening to an audio podcast, whatever it might be. I don't have a TV. I don't listen to the radio.
Awesome.
I'm conscious of, some people might think that's a bit weird, but I'm conscious of what I allow in, because I know if garbage is going in, that's what's coming out.
Exactly. And when you come over, there was that binaural beats playing, and I constantly have either deep theta or alpha waves playing, just so I'm in that that brainwave state that actually makes me functional, gets me in that place where I guess I can take things in, I can access the subconscious a little more easily.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's powerful.
Oh, it's literally life change, isn't it? Yeah.
Last question for you. If you had the chance to put a message on a billboard where thousands of people would see it every day, what would that message be? And it can't be sexy water.
Okay, I'd say choose to believe and choose to forgive.
Damn, that's cool. That is awesome.
Everything we do on a daily basis is a choice.
Yeah.
Whether it be how we react, how we communicate, whatever. And also, just before we go, I'd just like to say that one of the things that I learned very quickly was we have this very flippant way of tarnishing someone and saying that person's an idiot. Whereas in fact, that person's not an idiot. It's just a moment their behavior is idiotic based on a judgment as well. So it means that the person doesn't always have to be classed as an idiot in quote marks. But just being aware of that, because that allows us all to not be associated with our past and allows us to be present in the moment to move forward.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
And I think that part about forgiveness would make people really think about reflect back on their life and think, shit, who do I need to forgive? How petty am I being right now? What am I holding on to that's holding me back?
I do if you don't mind me saying this, I do a 10-day program called Getting to Know You. And in that I cover forgiveness deep.
Awesome,
I go through an actual journey of it, and the shift that people have had through some of the things that they've gone through that have literally shattered them for 30 plus years.
Yep.
They've shifted during that. If somebody's going to take anything from this, please choose forgiveness, no matter how, because once you let go, it stops that venom coursing through your body, because it's not affecting the other person who's hurt you.
Cool. Well, you can send me the links for your Facebook page for that course or workshop, and I'll put that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can do so via that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But I want to wrap up by acknowledging you for, first of all, coming here, for being open to it, but for taking everything you've gone through, man. Shit, this list. Opening up to your fiance, the medication, the psychologist, psychiatrist, going to the mental health hospital. Thank you for fucking having the courage to do that, bro.
Thank you.
That is powerful in this time, this era where men are supposed to be stoic.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's powerful to see someone like you who's inspiring and empowering people now to take that course of action. That's probably one of the most inspiring things for me from this, for going through that retreat, for dealing with the loss of those two partners, just detaching and then separating from them, and then going through this period of self-development, man. It's powerful. Like, what you're doing has value, you have value, and you are making a difference, and I'm excited to see what you do moving forward.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Hey, legend.
Thank you, my man.
Cheers, champ.